My name is Mark Skipper. I have lived here in Minnesota since 1995. At the time I was moving from Indianapolis, I had never been here ever. I was coming here to work for the Boy Scouts of America, who I worked for 12 years. And I remember when the guy was driving me around and I saw all these little houses, like little huts. And I asked him, hey, what's going on over there? And he told me that they were ice fishing. I'm like, how can they be ice fishing? Don't you have to be around water to ice fish? And then he said, yeah, they're on the lake. And I'm like, this is definitely a different place to be on. Because I don't know about you, but I would never be on a lake with a car. So I worked for the Boy Scouts for 4 more years. Then I started to work for Dunwoody College. And what I did for both organizations is I was a fundraiser. I would go and talk to people about the organization, find out what they're interested in, and connect them, get them involved. Then at some point ask them to make a contribution to the organization. So I worked for Dunwoody up until 2012. And then I made a decision. Like a lot of organizations that go through transition, they want to make a change in the organization as it related to my job. I decided I didn't want to do that. So I made the decision that I was going to start a cleaning business. I thought this was a business that I could learn fast enough, that this was a business that I believed I could present a little bit differently. And so I jumped out in 2013 on January the 4th. I started walking around Maple Grove with business cards and handing those out to companies in the area. So that first year, I picked up 21 accounts to get me started. And I still have the very first company is still a customer. So I've just crossed the 8-year mark and looking forward to being able to say we're 10 years old. So what we do is we serve small businesses here in the Maple Grove area. And my niche that I really focus on are what I call family, which is an acronym for financial advisors, accountants, mortgage professionals, insurance agents, lawyers, and then the Y is for businesses that are located in the area that fit some of the other criteria that we have for the types of companies that we serve. So all those companies tend to deal with private information. So a lot of what I sell to companies are trust, that they can trust me and they can trust our cleaners, that they don't have to worry about us walking out with things, taking photographs of things, because let's face it, they're dealing with all those things that right now we're very concerned with, things such as identity theft and what have you. So one of the things that I do is that this is my uniform during the day. Bob mentioned that he thought he had met me before about 2 or 3 years ago. And I'm sure it probably was because I had on this outfit. This is what people see me in all the time. I remember I was going into a building in Brooklyn Park, and I'm walking into the building, and this woman stops, and she just says, "Aren't you that cleaning guy?" Because she recognized the black suit and the tie. So one of the things that I've done is just really try to figure out visually how to stand out so that people will remember me. And this is one of the ways that I do that. You know, one of the things that we know right off the beginning, right off the start, is that there's power in words. I mean, just think about it. God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. So right off the start, we have seen that there is a lot of value in what we say, and we have to be very careful with what we say and how we say it. You know, words can build you up, they can tear you down. Words can inspire people to achieve things that they never thought that they could do. And of course, words can tear you down as well. It can stop you from moving forward. Words can stop you from taking chances, for doing things that you have always wanted to do, because something is saying to you, you're not going to be successful. What we say as leaders to the people that work with us is really important. And our ability to use words to inspire is key. But while it's important about what we say to other people, it's also important about what we say to ourselves. Now, we may not have a conversation as we would with a person where we're speaking out loud, but our thoughts. I mean, if I were to ask you right now to raise your hand if you talk to yourself, most of us probably would not raise our hand. But if you really think about it, you have hundreds of conversations in your head every single day. And once again, those conversations, just as when you're speaking with somebody that you're working with and you're encouraging them, it's the same thing with ourselves and thoughts that we have. We can encourage ourselves or we can discourage ourselves. So one of the things I wanted to share with you was an experience that I had rappelling down a 23-story building here in the Minneapolis. Some of you may have been inside the U.S. Bank Plaza building in downtown Minneapolis. That's the building, or I should say that's one of the buildings that I rappelled down. The other building, which is also 23 stories, is the Ecolab building in St. Paul. Now, when you think of rappelling, I don't know about you, but I always think about the Batman and Robin series. Let me just see by a show of hands, who remembers seeing Batman and Robin back in the 60s or the 70s? All right. And for many of us, we may not have been old enough to see it then, but of course they're still showing reruns on it. So on Batman and Robin, they would always be going either up or down the building, and then a celebrity would stick his head out of the window. To some extent, that is what my experience coming down that skyscraper was supposed to be like. Both feet flat on the wall and walking down slowly. Now, let me tell you, I might be getting a little ahead of myself. Let me go back to, why was I rappelling down a building? How did I get into that situation? Well, I am a volunteer with the Boy Scouts of America. I serve on their board and have the responsibility of raising funds for this great program. So I'm at a board meeting and I'm giving a report to our members. And with the Boy Scouts, they do a great job of always giving you good bullet points when you make presentations. So I'm standing up and I'm going over my bullet points and sharing those with the board. And it's time for me now to talk about this new event that is called the Double Dog Dare. And what this event was to rappel down a 23-story building to raise funds for scouting. Now think about this. You're coming down 23 stories. And let me tell you, 23 stories is pretty high up to be. You come down, you take a chance of losing your life in order to raise money for the organization. So we had to raise about $1,000 to $1,200 in order to do that. So I'm reading this and I'm thinking, wow, this is a real cool event. How many people in my neighborhood would be able to say, hey, I rappelled down the U.S. Bank building downtown? Not too many people, I can guarantee you. In fact, I have never run into anybody that has said that they have ever gone down a skyscraper. So I'm reading this off, and out of nowhere, it seems like I step out of my body, and I'm watching myself read this. And as I'm thinking, this would be a great way for me to promote my business. What if I came down in my shirt and my tie, like Batman and Robin? Wouldn't this be a great way to say, oh, that is the cleaning guy? Well, let me tell you what happened as I'm thinking this. And some of you might have experienced this as well. All of a sudden, a little bitty mini me popped up on my left shoulder, and another one popped up on my right one. The right one had some wings, and the left one, well, let me tell you, he was a little red. And as I was thinking these things, they both were talking to me at the same time. The one with the wings was saying, oh, Mark, that would be a great idea. You can do it. What a fantastic way to promote your business. Well, the little guy that was red on the left shoulder was saying just the opposite. See, he was telling me all the reasons why I could not do this particular event. He says, you're too old. 2, you're not in the greatest shape. And 3, you could fall. So they went back and forth in my head. And eventually, I took the advice of the right shoulder that had the wings. And I decided that I was going to participate and do this double dog dare. Now, let me ask you this question. Have you been in situations where it seems in your head you're going back and forth? You're debating whether or not you can do something. And many times you're being discouraged on one side, and then on the other side, you're being encouraged to do that. That was the experience that I had when I was reading that off. So this is the U.S. Bank building. Let me tell you, the slide does not do it justice. When you're standing on ground level and you're looking up, it seems like the building never stops. Imagine I was now going to walk down the side of that building. Who has ever been on top of a building over 5 stories high? You probably have noticed the higher up you go, it seems that the wind blows a lot harder. If you've ever passed by a car dealership and you see all the American flags, you'll notice where when you're on the ground, the wind doesn't seem to be blowing, but those flags are just flapping hard all the time. Well, now imagine being 23 stories up. I can now see the ceilings or the roofs of other buildings. While there still was some taller, 23 stories is a long ways up. So as I said, the wind is blowing. I move towards the edge of the roof of the building and I look over. And it's amazing how small people seem to get the higher up that you go. The wind is getting stronger and stronger. Well, finally, I get to the point where the guys begin to strap me in to prepare to go down and do my Batman and Robin activity, and that's to rappel down that building. It's kind of funny. When I first got to the roof, I was extremely excited and jovial. And then as I got closer to that moment, as you can see here, all of a sudden I was extremely focused, and there was no time for smiling or being jovial. I had to make sure that he was tying every single belt on me tight. Because let me tell you, if you fall 23 stories, it will probably mess up your day. So I had to be focused and make sure that he was doing it right. Well, I'm happy to say he did do it right. It was nice and tug, and I was snug. You know, I really appreciate, and as I'm sure that you do, when you surround yourself with people that are good at their particular job, at their particular responsibility. And that's what I experienced on the edge of that roof. It's just like in your business. You need to surround yourself with people that are confident and know exactly what they're doing. So I was very happy that these weren't volunteers, but these were professionals at what they were doing. So they said to me, okay, Mark, you're strapped in. Now, I want you to go to the edge and take that first step. So my hands are on the rope, right? And as I said, the wind is blowing me like an American flag. The edge of my heels of my shoes are now hanging over the edge of the roof. So I take one last look down, and I see all these people pointing up, wondering, is he crazy? What is he doing? So I began to do a little sweating. The perspiration is coming down. And then the guy says to me, Mark, take that first step. I took a deep breath, and I just stood there and swayed from side to side. He said again, Mark, take the first step. Now, I told you, before they started strapping me in, I was extremely happy and confident, and my hearing was perfect. But now, my hearing had completely gone away. He said it the third time. I heard it. So I just took a deep breath, closed my eyes, and stepped backwards. I went over the edge, and I slammed into the wall. Think back to when I told you I was at that board meeting, and I had the two mini-me's on my shoulder, the little angel and the devil. All those negative things, all those bad words that devil was putting into my head began to rush back into my thoughts. Why am I doing this? This doesn't make sense. I'm not in the greatest shape. I could have made a contribution and then taken that perfectly good elevator back down to the ground. I'm going back up. But then the angel popped back up and began to share words with me that encouraged me that you can do this. Just take a deep breath and just put one foot in front of the other and go down. I have had this same type of experience over the 8 years of building my business. There have been many points where I slammed into the wall. And I began to hear that, why did you do this? You could have stayed working for someone where it was much more secure than going out on your own and trying to run a business. Some of you may have experienced the same. You may have hit some of those bumps in the road and you begin to question, am I able really to do this? Did I really make the right choice by stepping out of my comfort zone and starting this business, or moving to this next company, or leaving and going to school to work on that advanced degree? All of those negative things of why you can't come in, why you can't do that. Keeping in mind, there's power in the words that we use, and especially the words we use and say to ourselves, those words that we think can encourage us to go forward or to go backwards. Well, once again, the little angel won out. I didn't go back up. I didn't quit. I decided to take a deep breath, hold on tight, and begin to walk down, taking one step at a time. I have to be honest. The entire time that I'm going down, now keep in mind, I am going down. I didn't quit. But the entire time I'm thinking, I can't wait to get to that ground and have my feet flat on that concrete. As I said, I thought this was a great way to promote my business. But I kept going down, one step at a time. And I continued to listen to the positive things that were being said to me. Well, as you can see, and as you probably had already figured out, I did survive that. I didn't fall the 23 stories. I made it down to the ground, feet flat, feeling safe, and feeling good about the accomplishment that I had by not giving up and keep going forward. I am so glad that I listened to those positive words that provided me strength to make it through this experience that I had doubts about. I still have doubts about different experiences like in my business. And once again, I try to focus on listening to the positive words. I try to focus on, when I pray, to do my best to listen and to hear what God is saying to me. To listen to those words that give life, that give power, that give opportunity, as opposed to listening to those words that will try to destroy, that will try to hold me back. And I'm sure you also have had that experience or may be dealing with some of that right now as well. But the whole point of my sharing this experience with you is to really talk about the power of words that we use, especially the words that we use to ourselves. Ask yourself, what am I saying? What are the words that I'm using? Because that makes all the difference in the world of how we deal with the challenges, the bumps in the road. It depends on how and what we choose to say to ourselves. With that, Steve, I will pass it back to you.
Thank you for that, Mark. Mark, does anybody have any questions for Mark?
I could just share some comments as Mark is again, God's divine timing is always right, but I'm in like week 3 of starting my own business too, and I can relate and to a lot of the feelings that you were expressing there, stepping over the edge and going down and being scared, and having a devil on one shoulder, angel on the other, and it's very true. And the words that we say to each other, it's just one moment I'm telling myself I can't do it, and another moment, the Holy Spirit's telling me I can. So, we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us.
That's right. That's right. I mean, there's just so much power in speech and in words, and I mean, the devil understands that, right? He stays there. He whispers those things in our head. He has other people whisper things in our heads that once again will deter us from the route, the direction in which God has planned for us to go. So we really do have to think a lot about how we say and what we say, what words that we are bringing to us. For instance, when we say things like, "Oh, I can't do that," those kinds of things you shouldn't say, because you're absolutely right. You are preventing yourself because you're putting it out there now. You can't do it because words just have so much power.
Yeah, I thought there was an interesting thing a speaker said a long time ago. I've been kind of a Jim Rohn fan all my life. He was a big leadership guy, and he had a whole segment on words have power. And this one's a little bit more towards our words have power to other people. He said the difference between even just my wife having a bad day and me saying, "What's wrong with you?" versus saying, "What's troubling you?" There's a huge change in that. And we apply that to ourselves whenever that negative talk is coming. What is troubling me, going deeper, or not what's wrong with me, right? And so, turn that inward and look to him. And the get thee behind me, Satan. As believers, we have that power, right? To call upon Jesus and say, "Get thee behind me." I don't know how many times a day I have to do that, because he's constantly prowling around like a hungry lion, right? Trying to trip us up. And it's like, no, I'm not going to take that. I'm seeking his face, right? And he's with me always. So I have that power with me at all times. And I appreciate that reminder today, Mark. That was great.
Mm-hmm. He's definitely a devourer.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking, I was also thinking about the fundraiser for AFB that you'll be doing when you're going down scaling the IDS, right? Well,
I like that, Bob. Good.
That's a few more stories, isn't it? I didn't realize you did Echo Lab too.
Yeah, so we did it for a total of 4 years. We did the experience.
Oh.
So the very first year was Echo Lab.
Oh, okay.
When I did it that time, I mean, it's not old, but older. I was 48 years old at the time. I was running 5Ks, so I was in pretty decent shape. It was a great experience. As you come down, if you come down too fast, they have a little mechanism on the rope to stop, because they don't want you going down too fast to the ground. So apparently I was moving too fast and it just stopped. And I was on the 8th floor, just kind of swinging back and forth. And I'm sure people were looking out the window, wondering, who is this guy, just swinging out back and forth. But it was like being on an amusement park ride. It was a lot of fun. Now you fast forward to the U.S. Bank building, and that was 2014. I'm 4 years older. I'm not running like I had been doing. One of the things they want you to do is just like on the Batman show, they actually want you to keep your feet flat on the side of the building and come down. And let me tell you a little secret if you haven't figured this out. For those of you that have seen the Batman and Robin TV series, they're not actually walking down a building. That building is actually the floor that they're walking on. So it's very hard to keep your feet on the wall as you're walking down. Now you add to it, as I said, I wasn't in that great of shape. It became work for me to go down that building. And when I slammed into the wall, I was ready right then to give up and go back over the top, as opposed to now going down the next 22 stories. But as I said, I felt good once I was done with it, but I made a decision then that was the last time I was going to rappel down the skyscraper. That was it.
Until Ambassadors for Business called. And then,
that's right. Yeah, I wanted to try a few more.
I'm going to keep picking away at this one, Mark.
So this was a fundraiser. So I had to go out and ask people to make contributions in order for me to participate in this rappelling. And the funniest thing, I had a relative that passed away, and we were at the luncheon after the repast is what it is. And I'm sitting next to my cousin. My cousin is just like staring at me. We're sitting there talking, having lunch, and he's just staring at me. So eventually I turn and look at him, and he says, Mark, why would you want to walk down a building? He just couldn't understand why I would do something like that, which I guess really makes sense. Why do you want to take a chance that, as I said, if you were to fall, it kind of would mess up the rest of your day, right? If you hit the ground that high up in the air. But I was able to raise enough money to do that. But as I said, when I got done that second time, I had made a decision. I was planning not to do that a third time, but I guess I can be convinced.
I love it.
Yeah.
My wife said I would never do that because I'm afraid of heights. I just get on the edge of a building and I'm back and then off 10 feet or more.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a fun experience if you ever have the opportunity to try something like that. I mean, it's just amazing. As I said, the higher up you go, just how hard that wind blows.
Oh yeah.
When you're up there. But it's a beautiful sight being able to see other buildings, like in the one photograph, there are buildings that were taller, and then a lot of the buildings were a lot smaller, and the people are much smaller than what they are when you're down on the ground as well. But I thought it was a great experience. One thing I didn't share is, but at least they did train us on how to do it ahead of time.
Yeah.
It was about 15 minutes worth of training that we got on how to rappel down. They had us on a little bitty wall down on the first floor and would show you how to walk up and down the wall. And that was it. From there, you had to put your faith in those guys that were strapping you up, that they were doing it in the right way, that they weren't making any kind of mistakes. Um, so that would be a terrible feeling to be on the 18th floor and your rope the knot starts to come apart. That's not good.
Similar to what Craig said, it's like it just really what you were talking about just really hit me, because I'm similar, where I just had this new career change, and there's all these feelings of doubt, right? And like, where do they come from? Part of doubt is not knowing, right? It's being unsure of what's to come. It's being unsure of your success in whatever areas you are, and will you survive? And I've been praying so much every morning. I've been waking up and there's just these feelings of slight anxiety, and things. And I'm just like, what can I pray about? And I know we've talked before about gratitude and all those things, but it's like, there is like this voice that's just kind of constantly like, can you do this? And are you going to be successful at this? And, just having, hearing the words that you said today, Mark, I just want to thank you, because it's like we just need to listen to him, because that's really where we're going to find the way forward and find the confidence, and just keep believing, and, do the right things, right? Set yourself up and make sure you're doing the right things every day.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest encouragements I can put out there is a mindset. We talk a lot about mindset within AFB and a lot of the leadership training that goes on. It really does. I've camped on Romans 12:2, which was part of what Mark was even saying there, the retraining of your mind, right? Not conforming to the ways of the world, but retrain your mind. I think a lot of what happens when we get into these environments, our heart and mindset, it's the heart and the mind, that 18 inches between those two that you really got to manage. And when you're getting out in this courageous territory of being an entrepreneur, right? And an attitude of faith or fear, or mindset or faith versus fear, is paramount, I think, to success. When you're acting in faith, I believe that this is very similar to the talk I do about busy, right? Being under Satan's yoke or being under Savior's yoke. Faith versus fear, you can kind of put those in the same categories. And it really does come down to this abiding in him. Because if you're abiding in what the Lord would have you do, I go back to something that Tom Wininger said when he was with us, right? I mean, Tom passed a couple of weeks ago. And he's got so many wise words. But he says, we serve a perfect God. And he created you in his image. And he has a purpose for you in your life. Which means if he's a perfect God, and we believe that, then you've been created perfectly to fulfill that purpose. And having that faith in that means that if you can abide in that, right? Abide in him, you'll be able to figure this out. It might take time, I think it's being in the Word. I think it's being around others of like mind and spirit. I think it's about being involved in your church. That gives you that platform, that foundation, to build on the rock and really truly discover your focus in life, that call, that mission. And then from there, develop that decision-making filter. Because like you said, Mark, hundreds of times a day, we get that voice going, we're having that conversation. Literally, they say 35 to 65,000 decisions every single day are going on in this little microprocessor we got up here, right? And so what happens, I call them F words. We've got, I set my life up so faith is first, my family second. And then after that, all the other F words of life can get all jumbled up, right? They can be finance, it could be fitness, it could be fun, it could be friends. It goes on and on and on, right? With all these F words. And invariably, because I'm a bag of flesh, another F word, I get it all mixed up. And your tendency, especially when you're an entrepreneur and you're up against it, you to get it mixed up all the time. Because, I can't make the bills. I got all these things going on. And, like I was saying, right when the meeting started here today, I had 35 meetings in 3 days. That's probably a little more than I should have. I was probably striving there, more than I should have, not abiding. So we need that reset. We need to get back to those foundational truths, right? In the Word, in our small group that holds us accountable and encourages us, being involved in the church. What's my mission vision? Oh yeah, I need to make my decisions based on my faith first, my family second, and then allow the rest of these things to come in. And when we finally get there, that's when I believe we discover that fruit of the Spirit, right? The love, the joy, the peace, the patience, the kindness, the goodness, the faithfulness, the gentleness, and self-control that only comes through Him, right? It only comes through unlocking that side of it. And from there you find freedom, right? The true freedom, because the things of this world cease to matter as much, okay? I think that's where the true freedom comes from. We can let go of all that because we have Him, and that's enough. That's enough. We can walk in that. We can trust that. He never changes, and we'll be fine. So seek the solace there, right? It's like, I'm good there. I've got that part of my life. Yeah, maybe I don't have enough to scrape 2 nickels together to buy, more than macaroni and cheese for dinner for a while. But you know what? I'm okay with that because I got Him, right? Maybe my car broke down. I can't even get around town. But you know what? I'm trusting Him. I'm okay with that. It's going to be all right. He's got a plan. I trust it. I can be joyful in the trials and tribulations that come my way because I have Him. So I'm sorry, I got on a soapbox again there, didn't I? But hopefully that's encouraging.
Yes, it is very much. Thank you.
Made me think of another F word called focus.
Yep. Yep. Have that focus.
One of the meetings we had in Anoka, I think it was Jimmy Z, was talking about having a personal board of advisors, he called it. And instead of it being a formal, he has people that he just can pick up the phone and call at any time and get encouragement, inspiration.
Yeah.
Kind of things. So if you have people that come alongside you, same with any of us, that we can confide in and knows the struggles we're in and has some advice or a question that helps us get clearer understanding of what we're dealing with.
Well, one of the great things that we know is one, that God does not create us to be afraid. He doesn't create fear. So the fear we know is coming from the other guy, right? It's coming from Satan. So when we start to feel that fear, I believe that we need to now put that focus on God, because we know we're being attacked when we start feeling that fear, when we start feeling that doubt, and start maybe thinking about verses like, for instance, Isaiah 41:10, where God lets you know that He's your God and that He's lifting you up, He's helping you. I mean, at least for me, that makes me feel so much more comforted knowing that He says He's helping me, and it's not just me trying to do it all on my own and by myself. Because as we all know, when we make decisions just to do things by ourselves, probably most times it doesn't work out right.
I think it was a great presentation, Mark. I appreciate you doing this for us, and we look forward to having you as a speaker somewhere else or some other location, and hopefully that people will watch this recording and invite you to speak at one of the other groups.
Well, I appreciate the invitation and opportunity to meet and have conversation with other like-minded Christians.